So to start, I guess what I would love to know is, why were you sort of interested in creating a firm that dedicates itself to mesothelioma patients?
Well, that's a tough one. That the firm grew organically from representing those patients, but to me, there's no other better area of law than going into a house and sitting at the kitchen table and getting to know your client individually for such a serious disease and such a serious problem that they're going through. So to get to do that on a daily basis and on a broad scale for as many people as we can, that's what really made that type of firm intriguing to me, challenging, and really having a career challenge like that, I don't think you could have a better challenge, because you can never know if you did the absolute best job you can, but you know that it's one of the most important jobs, especially for that client. A firm may have many clients, but a client only has one case. And to be able to show them how much you care and how much you're into that case to make sure they get the best result, to me, there wouldn't be a better law firm to start than one that can help people on that level again and again.
What would you say have been some of the firm's main goals in terms of its growth and expansion?
The main goal really is to meet the demand. So our goal is to make sure our name is out there, and as we are doing that, more and more cases are coming our way, and so we have to make sure that we can service those cases and help each family and give them the amount of attention that they require. So each case, unfortunately, ends up being a wrongful death case, and usually entails several different defendants that all expose our client. So each case could be 20 small cases in one. For instance, a plaintiff who's a sheet metal worker may be exposed to 7 different boilers, 5 pumps, 3 valves, and was exposed at 2 different locations where he wasn't warned. So now you've got all these different defendants that you have to sue and bring to court. And if you have 3 of those cases, that's a lot of work. If you have 10 new clients, you've got to expand. You have no choice because of all the work that is created from suing that many defendants because of that many different exposures.
Hearing that, I think people would really be interested in knowing what is the process. How long does it take? What are the steps that people are really going to be facing or seeing, as they go through this form of litigation?
So the process takes about 1 year. That's always been the goal, is to get through the whole thing in 1 year. Another goal or thought that we always have in mind is that our clients are going through a lot during that period. They're dealing with numerous medical appointments, chemotherapy, potentially declining health. So when we are working with a client, we try to get in and get out as quickly as possible. So it's a short period of time where we come in and try to get what we need done so that then we can extract ourselves and let the client and the client's family deal with all the medical issues, because really that's the top priority, is making sure that the client or the person with mesothelioma is taken care of from a medical standpoint. So we see ourselves as secondary and working around that schedule, that calendar, and then also making sure it's as quick and as pleasant as possible.
Can you tell me a little bit about this idea of a team-based approach in terms of working with the clients? It's something that is used fairly often on our website, but what does that actually mean for a client?
So when a client comes in, we do the intake process, figure out what kind of case, what type of exposures there are. Is it an industrial case, a commercial exposure case, or a residential case? And the level of difficulty and the different defendants that it may involve. And then that case is assigned to a trial team. So on a trial team, you've got a lead attorney, and then you have a lead paralegal. And then you also have a law clerk who's a future attorney in training. And those 3 or 4 or 5 people will all work on the case as one, and then they collaborate and bring other people into the case as needed, depending on the complexity, the length of the case, things of that nature. But that's the trial team at heart, is to make sure that from when the case comes in until the case is resolved or goes to trial, that you have that team working for you.
Great. What would you say are some of the advantages of being a boutique firm? What sort of sets Vogelzang Law apart from other firms?
Our firm has a very, how would you say it, a sentimental quality. We really do get to know each member of the family. And when a client or a client's wife or spouse calls and gets anybody who picks up the phone, after about a month or so, everybody knows the family members and the family members know the staff here. And that way we know exactly what they're asking and how to answer their questions as quickly as possible and as easily. And also it provides a nice part of the day where you can catch up with the client. So there is a face behind the name. There isn't just an assembly line type of way of dealing with these cases. It's, oh, how are you? How's Frank today? How's he feeling? When's he going to the hospital next? We'll make sure that our next meeting is worked around that. And really, I don't see how you could do these types of cases any other way than in a boutique type of manner.
Why do you think it's really important for Vogelzang Law to be connected to the communities it serves?
There are a lot of communities that have been heavily affected by asbestos. Libby, Montana was a good example where W.R. Grace was mining vermiculite out of the ground, and you had a lot of people affected by that. So in Chicago, we have the same thing. At U.S. Steel, Inland Steel, a lot of the steel mill sections that employed thousands of workers in the 1970s. Up to 20,000 people might work in any given steel mill. In the process of making steel in the 60s and 70s, asbestos was heavily used, which means you have thousands of people that were exposed to asbestos. Unfortunately, a lot of those people are not aware that the disease they may have is caused by asbestos. You would think so because we're inundated by ads about mesothelioma and getting a lawyer, but still there remains a good section of the population that's unaware, even from the TV ads, that their disease is caused by asbestos. So if you reach into steel mill communities or communities that largely worked in an industrial area that used asbestos, it can really benefit everyone involved because you've got that short window of time between diagnosis and health declining to a point where it's very difficult to try to work with lawyers. So the more you're working with the community, the more they benefit, the more you benefit. It's really mutually beneficial.
Vogelzang, compared to some other law firms, has a really sort of vital connection to the medical community. Can you maybe go a little bit into, what sets Vogelzang apart in terms of, our connections to the medical community?
Sure. The core and really genesis of that is due to my father, who is an oncologist still practicing today in Nevada. And he was the director of the Cancer Center at University of Chicago. He started his career at the bottom at University of Chicago and receiving the cases that nobody could work on or didn't want to, and those were the mesothelioma cases, because unfortunately at that time there wasn't anything they could really do for them. So because of the proximity of University of Chicago to the steel mills, he ended up getting more cases than really anybody in the nation, or was one of the top doctors that saw that disease, and ended up working a tremendous amount on trying to mix different chemotherapies together to make some progress, some headway, and finally did achieve that in 2003 with the Alimta and cisplatin regimen. So me growing up in that context of him working with cancer patients his whole life, I used to go on rounds with him occasionally on Saturday mornings. He made a big impression on me and also gave me a relationship with many of his coworkers and colleagues in the medical community. So with that foundation, now that I'm a lawyer and have been for almost 20 years, I still bump into a lot of those physicians and get the opportunity to work with them and some of their patients. And we also really try to give back for our patients because mesothelioma is often referred to as an orphan cancer. There's only 3,500 mesothelioma cases in any given year, whereas breast cancer has 600,000. So naturally, breast cancer gets a lot of funding and a lot of awareness. Mesothelioma, although it's a very tragic disease, it just doesn't get the kind of funding or research, because even if a company did have a successful chemotherapy regimen, there aren't that many people to actually sell it to. And it's unfortunate that we are in a capitalist society when it comes to things like that, but it's the reality. So as a law firm, the more we can give back, the more we can help the doctors make progress against mesothelioma, the more we're doing as a firm to help our clients, both representing them and then helping the disease and pushing this disease back.
What would you say are some of the additional ways that Vogelzang tries to give back or connect to the community?
Well, we try to do it with in the fall, we're doing a mesothelioma race where we're trying to do our own not independent fundraising, but joint fundraising. There's a company, or not a company, a group called Mesothelioma Applied Research Foundation. And they're helping us put together a mesothelioma race in September of this year. So we're going to try to reach out to all of our clients and all the different groups we work with, the union members, hospitals, everybody else in our circle, and try to bring them together and raise more awareness, raise more money, do what we can, like I said, to beat back this disease. So we try in every aspect, and we're always open to new ways to help out groups that are